All right, everybody, we're going to try doing this video a second time because the first time I nearly cut the end of my finger off on a pair of goddamn scissors. We'll talk about that in a minute, but wow, are those sharp scissors. Holy shit. So what had happened was doing the video and taking something apart and ran my finger down the edge of the scissors, and I got a really nice slice and a lot of blood and had to clean it up, and figured it wouldn't make for a good YouTube video. They demonetized me for showing blood. So anyway, we'll kind of re-pick up here and maybe we'll speed it up. So what I was talking about was the quest for the ideal EDC. It's a never-ending quest because what I'm finding is there's never any one thing that kind of does what I need. I'm always having to switch it out or make compromises because in order to get the tools and the pliers and the things that I do want on a knife, well, I get the handyman, which isn't very handy when it doesn't have a Phillips screwdriver. And I know you can say, well, you can in a pinch use the can opener. And so it's like, yeah, but I'd rather have, if I'm buying a multi-tool for certain things, I don't want to use just the tip of that, which can bend or snap or strip the wire or the Phillips head, because it's not, pointed enough and it's only 2 of the blades instead of 4 to give it better purchase. It forces all that force onto 2 pieces instead of 4. I'm always making concessions. So then I go, well, I could get the champ, the Swiss champ, but then the thing's like holding a log in your pocket because it's got everything, including a fish scaler and dumb shit that I don't need. You've got your pliers, your true multi-tools, which is great. This is the right tool for the mission when you need a real pair of pliers. But most of the time you don't. Neither of these have one-handed opening for anything. And I know there's the Leatherman Arc, and I do have one of those. But again, it's a big, bulky knife. They have a one-handed open version of this, but the blade is smaller. And it doesn't, the way they implemented the thumb stud, it just doesn't work well, and it makes the blade harder to sharpen. And when you're cutting through something like an orange, this big goofy thumb stud which is kind of part of the blade, they just stamped the steel and bent it out. You're cutting through a box or something and it catches. It's like this big giant lip that sticks out like that frickin' far. So this works very well, and I would say this is one of my favorite multi-tools, but it's also very dense, very heavy, and a lot of times you don't use all the tools anyway. So then you go to the minimalist one, like a Skeletool CX, and on paper this thing is great. You got your basic pliers, not as good as those, but better than those. This one does have a bit driver, although the bits are kind of small, but it doesn't have a saw, it doesn't have a file, it doesn't have anything. It's really just a bit driver, a one-handed opening blade with a liner lock, which is nice. But then on this one, in their effort to make it small and minimalist, your pressure is being put on small. It's not a wide, flat surface like pliers. So in this piece digs into the heel of your hand. It's not that comfortable to actually use with any kind of force. In fact, that point kind of digs in. So then you feel like, all right, well, to use that, I need to actually take the bit out. But even then, now you're pushing that into the heel of your hand. It's just not that comfortable at the end of the day. So, what are you going to do? So Roxon came along with a really cool multi-tool. It's got spring-loaded pliers, replaceable carbide cutting edges there, blades. You got your pocket clip. And then they have this design where you can come in here and pop this sucker open and then start adding whatever tools you want, right? I've done a review of this. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. And you lock that open, and now you can go in and put in this and say, hey, I want to use this. I want a saw on this one. I want a blade. I want a can opener. And you can basically just come in here and put whatever tools you want in the order that you want them in, right? And then once that's done, you lower that lever and it locks them all into place. And now you've got yourself, a customized multi-tool. All right. Now getting these in, because I did tighten that screw, the pivot screw a little bit to reduce some blade wobble. And I might have done it just a little bit too much because it makes these things kind of a pain in the dick to get in there. But you get them all in, you push that, and if everything's in the right place, they lock in, and you got your different tools and stuff. The problem with those is that you're limited by where you can put the long tools, and I wasn't paying attention. I put the long tool. It should have been on the side because you can only put 2 long tools here because otherwise they're going to hit the pliers. So it does limit you, but it's still then a big bulky piece and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's a cool design and it works for a lot of people. And there are times when I do use that, but I would rather have something the size of that. So me, like a lot of people, have been pining for years saying, wouldn't it be awesome if Swiss Army, because they've got, you know, Victorinox, which I also have, Victorinox watch, Field Force 43. It would be nice if you had something small like this. It just looks like a pocket knife. You're not carrying around a giant pair of pliers that does other things. But the problem with Victorinox is that despite the fact that they have like 200 different models, there is no one model that has exactly what I want and no more. I either have to do without tools, or in order to get the one tool I want, it's got to add 2 or 3 layers of a bunch of shit I don't need, which adds cost, weight, bulk in my pocket for things I don't want. I just want the tools that I want. Ideally, I would love an Alox version of the, I think the Farmer X or the Pioneer X that just adds a pair of pliers, like that, an inline screwdriver. Like that would be perfect for me, but I don't get what I want. So these guys are getting close, and so has Goat and a couple other companies are starting to come out with like these modular, configurable multi-tools. Well, what if someone were to come out with something like this that does all the things that this thing does? What if I could marry this with this and have some kind of evil spawn offspring that would let me take all kinds of these different tools that are like $5 or $6 each that you can replace anytime if you break one without having to replace the whole damn knife or try to take it apart and re-rivet it and, you know, all that crap. You could just say, oh, I don't want this blade because I'm going on a trip and so I want to take the blade off and go to a, you know, I'm going on a cruise and I can carry a multi-tool, but, you know, they won't let me carry, you know, a knife or something like that, which I do. Or you're going on the island or something, and, you know, you want something to open up packages or have some basic tools, but you don't want to run afoul of the local constabulary and get yourself, you know, arrested or in trouble over a freaking pocket knife, right? While I'm talking here, I'm trying to find the right Torx bit so I can make that adjustment there. So what they've done is, that's not the right one either. I have to play around with that and figure out what size I need to loosen that. But what we've got here now is a multi-tool that actually uses these tools. It's from Roxon. It's the same size, basically, a little bit smaller than the Handyman. And I wouldn't mind if they came out with other sizes where you could say, look, how many layers I want. I wouldn't mind adding like one more layer to get a couple extra tools. But here's what you do get out of the box. You have 5 slots. Now, some tools like the pair of pliers here are double width, okay? And so when I want to pop these out, I push that and say, all right, I want the pliers here. So that is actually double width. And those pliers are actually quite comparable to the Victorinox in the size, in the width, in the strength, how far they open. They're very, very close, and those are handy to have. I love having a little pair of pliers. It's good to grab something hot, something that's small. You got to reach in and grab something. You know, it's like an extended fingertips, you know, being able to grab. You're not going to be doing as much work as you would with this or a Leatherman Arc or the Swiss tools, but it is really, really nice to have that. And that locks in place. You push that button, and you'll be able to then close that. What I love about this is that you can come in here and open these all up, and just like the big pair of pliers there, you can lock that in the open position, and now any of these tools can be hot swapped out. Pull them back and then out, and you can pull out whatever tools you want and then replace them with whatever tools you want. And unlike this, you're not constrained. I can put all long tools if I want in here. So here you can only have so many long, you have 2 longs and then 3 shorts. And over here you can put 2 longs and 3 shorts on that side. Here you can put all longs, all shorts. You don't even need a blade. You literally can kind of do whatever the hell you want with regards to that. So very, very cool design to be able to have that in your pocket and say, hey, I need a D2 sheep's foot, one-handed opening knife. And I've got a locking blade and I can go and use my knife. Maybe you want your pliers. I've got a metal file. I've got a bottle opener with a flathead screwdriver. Well, over here on this side, you've also got a bit driver. And it's a full-size, standard-size bit driver. So I need to go on Amazon for like $4 and get a combo bit that's going to have flathead on one side and that on the other, and that will allow me to take out maybe the flathead screwdriver and put in a pair of scissors, or put in a hook, or a wood saw, or a can opener, or a diamond file. I've got an awl here, like a reamer. Got, I don't know what the hell that is, like a fish scaler or hook remover kind of thing. There's another blade over here that's not one-handed opening. It doesn't have the stud on it. So the point is here, they sell a whole shit ton of tools, and they sell you blanks that if you had a CNC machine or you wanted to grind or make your own, you could actually, buy the tool that just has a blank steel, and then you can cut it and do whatever you want with it and make your own tools. There's like, I think this, with the pair of pliers and the one-handed opening, I think I paid $50. And I already had all these tools for the Roxon Flex, I think that is. I think that's called the Roxon Flex. So very, very cool design. Just got to break it in, maybe loosen that pivot just a tiny bit so that when you open that, it doesn't try to drag the other tools with it. If you want to lock it in your pocket, go ahead and do that. And now none of the blades will open, so you don't have to worry about dropping it or anything popping open or anything like that. Just a really, really cool design to be able to say, all right, what do I need typically on a daily basis? Well, you constantly need a screwdriver for shit. So having that screwdriver right there, I'm sure they probably also sell other tools that go in that bit driver. So if you wanted like a small fire stick or something, you could probably throw one in there. I think they've got fire sticks that also go here. They've got a blade holder that holds like a scalpel blade, so you can replace it with like razor blades and stuff. It's just a really neat design. You got G10 scales for good grip. Everything else is stainless steel. You got a little plastic here just as a spacer. What else? Pocket clip. Just a very, very cool design. This is nice. This sits in your pocket, and if I just need a blade really quick, well, it's hard to do it with my fingertip all mashed up and cut up like it was. But basically, as soon as I get that adjusted right so it doesn't drag the other tool out with it, you get yourself a nice blade. They have a left-handed one where they put that on the other side. To me, this is a really, really cool design. You've got what you want and nothing that you don't. The only thing is right now, it's limited to this many layers, but all they have to do is just use longer screws and different standoffs. And I'm sure at some point in the future, they're going to offer, hey, do you want a 5 width? Do you want a 6 or 7 where I could have everything I have here and then add the saw and a pair of scissors? And now I've got basically everything off of this that I want and none of the shit that I don't. This is very, very cool. I love having a nice blade. If I chip the blade, if I break it, oh, look, I've already got a spare blade right here. This one's not one-handed opening, but I could get another one for, $7. Really, really cool design. This is what I would hope. It sounds great to say Victorinox. It'd be great if we had to go on the website and order it, and maybe it takes 6 months to get, but you can make your own. But I can see why they've talked about it but never really done it, because trying to do that one-offs, because a million people are going to order their own custom knife. It's going to take forever for them to make, and you're still stuck with, well, what if your needs change after the fact? Order another one and wait for them to get around to, building your knife for you? Or do you want to just be able to come in here and say, assuming they create larger ones that are wider, that give you the ability to add even more tools. But on a daily basis, what am I going to need? Once I got a combo bit, I got regular screwdriver, which has a liner lock, which is awesome. So I don't have to worry about it trying to close on me like it does on these. So that actually locks open. That's nice to have. Single edge blades, nice to have. Can opener, flathead. That also serves as like a pry bar. Having the having a metal file or a freaking saw blade, and especially having a nice little pair of pliers to be able to grab things or do whatever you got to do. Very, very, very cool design. Super impressed with this. If you want to do it yourself, you break something, you want to replace it, you want to switch it up. Like I said, when I'm going on the cruise, I'm going to pop that blade out and probably put the pair of scissors in there. It's ATF, or it's not ATF, TSA compliant. If you don't have any sharpened edges on there, it's not a knife or a weapon. It's just a multi-tool. Carry around a pair of scissors. Maybe they wouldn't let the scissors on a plane. So I don't know, saw, whatever. Maybe this little box opening thing. It's not a box cutter you can cut somebody with, but it's good for opening packages and cutting string or, you know, things like that. If you wanted an inline screwdriver and you wanted to use the bit driver for something else, they got a tool for that. I mean, it's almost like sky's the limit here. So love that they have done this and put this together. So I'm going to go ahead and oil it and then move my tools around and maybe take just a little bit of that tension out of that to free that up there so it's not dragging and pulling that out. But for their first attempt at this style of a knife, fantastic. I'm sure that there's going to be a Rev 2 at some point. But to be able to just have the Swiss Army knife tool that you want, the size that you want, you know, or at least with the tools that you want, and to be able to change it after the fact based on whatever you're doing that day. I've got a pile of these tools here. They have a list of them on their website. You can go order whatever you want. They range from like $7 to $9 each. You just build your own tool. When you invariably break something and need to change it, come in here and lock it open, wiggle that blade out, and put in your can opener. Okay, well now it's legal. I don't have any blades on there. As soon as that's locked in, snap that back in place. Everything locks open. Boom. I've just changed the tool. How cool is that? This is the Roxon Flex Companion is what they call it. Comes in a nice little box and a little carrying bag and all that stuff. Very, very cool tool. Just be careful when you're pulling it apart. These scissors get stored in this position. So right here, the edges are not, they're not exposed. However, if you wiggle it, this edge right here, these things are sharp as hell. This is like, I could sit here and slice paper with that edge. That edge is as sharp as a well-sharpened knife blade. So when I was trying to wiggle this thing out, it popped open and my finger went right down that and sliced deep. And that's, I guess I threw the paper towel out because it was covered in blood. Did quite a bit of damage to the tip of my finger. Just the tip though. But anyway, neat tool. Kind of gives you the size and portability of this, but it gives you more tools like you'd get on a multi-tool. Well, you know, let me take that back. It really, what it is it just takes this, because it's never going to give you this. You're never going to have the giant pair of pliers. What it's doing is taking this form factor and giving you the capability of this or that GOAT product where you just basically buy the pliers and it comes empty with a bunch of plastic spacers, and then you just buy whatever tools you want and slap them in there. It's bridging the gap between a customizable tool like this, but bringing it down into this smaller form factor that easily slips into your pocket. And unlike the SAK, comes with a pocket clip. So very, very cool. Hats off to them. I'll put a link to them. I don't have an affiliate link. I don't get any kickback or anything. I just put links to products that people might want to buy. If you do, great. If not, it's no skin off my ass. But it's a very, very good product. So far, I'm going to put it through its paces and use it around the yard after I wash some of that blood off. I really was sitting here bleeding like a stuck pig with a paper towel wrapped around my finger trying to do the video, and I was like, this ain't going to work. I need to refilm this. But there you have it. It's just such a cool design to be able to just build it out and have what you want. So there you go, folks. We'll talk to you later.